Dubro Suspicion Files.
Okay, so let's kick things off. Back in November 1974, there was this really powerful but short signal sent out from the Arecibo radio telescope in Puerto Rico.
Right, aimed at M13, this big cluster of stars. And it wasn't just static.
No, exactly. It was structured, like 1,679 bits of data. A digital postcard, really.
Trying to spell out our chemistry, our math, what we look like, even, where we are in the solar system.
It's probably the most famous time we've ever intentionally tried to broadcast our existence, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. But that's where the big question comes in, the thing we're calling the Arecibo paradox today.
Right. Was it this incredibly optimistic act?
Yeah.
Reaching out, hoping someone's listening, hope?
Was it just unbelievably reckless, broadcasting our location to potentially anyone or anything out there? Hubris.
That's the line we're walking today. We've got a stack of sources here, and we want to move past just the philosophical arguments,
Yeah, get into the actual physics of the signal, the reasons why it was sent, the institutional stuff behind it.
So our mission for this deep dive is to really examine both sides. There's the kind of scary game theory argument that says we basically invited danger.
And then there's the scientific reality check. Was the signal even detectable? Was it just, a stunt?
We're aiming to strip away maybe 50 years of sci-fi ideas that have grown up around this message.
And figure out what the sources tell us about its true significance.
Yeah.
Especially since, that message is only 50 years into a 25,000-year trip.
Let's find out what the real story is. All right, let's start with the heavy side, the case for hubris. Why might sending that message have been a terrible idea?
Well, anytime you talk about the dangers of broadcasting, you bump right into the Fermi paradox.
The big one. The universe is ancient, billions of stars, potentially billions of planets. Statistically, it feels like space should be teeming with life, right? Advanced life, even.
But we don't see any evidence. Nothing. Just silence. The great silence. It's eerie.
And that silence is the setup for the most, chilling explanation and the strongest argument against Arecibo, the dark forest theory.
Yeah, famously from Lou Sixon's novel, it paints the universe not as this potential community, but as a dark forest.
Where every civilization is like a hidden hunter, armed and listening.
Exactly. Yeah. And in that kind of environment, the absolute safest thing you can do is stay quiet, utterly silent. Silence is survival.
Because revealing yourself is like shouting in that forest.
Precisely. And this isn't just paranoia. The theory rests on two fundamental ideas, or axioms of cosmic sociology, as Sixon called them.
Okay, what are they?
Axiom 1. Survival is the #1 priority for any civilization. Doesn't matter what they're like, survival comes first.
Makes sense. And axiom 2?
Axiom 2. Civilizations tend to grow, expand, use more resources. But the total amount of matter and energy in the universe is fixed. It's finite.
Okay. So rising demand, limited supply. That automatically makes every other civilization a potential competitor down the line.
Right, whether they seem friendly now or not, and that creates what's called the chain of suspicion.
Explain that. How does the suspicion build?
Well, over these huge distances, like 25,000 light years to M13, you can't really know another civilization's intentions. You can't verify trust.
So if you detect a signal, like Arecibo,
all you know for sure is that someone out there has technology advanced enough to broadcast. And their technology is likely improving, maybe exponentially. They could become a threat.
It sounds like a cosmic version of the prisoner's dilemma, but with, ultimate stakes.
That's a great way to put it. You can't be sure of their intentions. If you let them be, maybe they wipe you out later when they need your resources, if you strike first.
You guarantee your own survival, at least for now.
And because the cost of being wrong, of trusting them when you shouldn't, is total extinction. The logical, self-preserving move is always to assume the worst.
Wow. So the theory concludes the only rational action is a preemptive strike against anyone who reveals their location.
Yes. Sending the Arecibo message, in that light, looks like painting a giant target on Earth.
Now, this isn't just fiction, is it? You mentioned sources grounding this in actual scientific concern.
Absolutely. Stephen Hawking, for instance, he was very vocal about the dangers of Mayday, that's messaging extraterrestrial intelligence actively broadcasting.
What was his main worry?
He argued we just cannot predict the intentions of an alien civilization.
Mm-hmm.
If they're way ahead of us technologically, well, think about how we've treated less advanced societies or even animals on Earth.
Right. We could be seen as resources or just in the way.
He felt the risk, even if small, was too catastrophic to take. Broadcasting was fundamentally irresponsible because the danger is unquantifiable.
And David Brin, he's another name that comes up.
Yeah, Brin looks at the Great Silence itself as evidence something's wrong out there. Like maybe other civilizations learn the hard way to stay quiet.
But his issue with Arecibo was also about something else, wasn't it? Like, who gets to decide?
Exactly. His point was that this tiny group of scientists, however well-intentioned, basically took it upon themselves to speak to aliens on behalf of all humanity.
Without asking the rest of us if we were okay with potentially betting the planet.
Right. No global discussion, no consent. He saw that act itself as incredible hubris, regardless of the actual risk level.
But hold on, does the dark forest absolute have to be true? I mean, it assumes this relentless expansion, resource competition. What if advanced civilizations evolve beyond that? Post-scarcity, maybe? Or maybe they're just not interested in us.
That's a really crucial question. And the theory doesn't necessarily require aliens to be evil. It relies more on logic driven by perceived scarcity in the unknown.
So even if they're peaceful now,
the chain of suspicion can still hold. What if they could become a threat later? What if their AI successors become resource hungry? The uncertainty itself drives the preemptive logic. You can't know, so the safest bet is to eliminate the variable.
so the fear isn't really about encountering monsters.
No, the deeper fear is that they might be just like us, logical, self-preserving, maybe a little paranoid, and arrive at the same ruthless conclusion we might.
Seen that way, the Arecibo message looks less like a friendly wave and more like shouting our address in a dangerous neighborhood. Okay, that dark forest scenario is definitely unsettling. A strong philosophical case for hubris. But now we need to pivot hard. Let's look at the actual message, the physics of it.
Yes, because this is where the whole dangerous gamble narrative starts to wobble, maybe even fall apart when you look at the numbers.
People often imagine it as this continuous blazing beacon.
Yeah, but the reality is a one-time shot lasted just 169 seconds. That's less than 3 minutes.
3 minutes, that's it.
That's it. And the power was 450 kilowatts, which sounds like a lot. And it was focused by the Arecibo dish.
But space is just unbelievably big, and the target, M13, is 25,000 light years away.
An almost incomprehensible distance. And the signal loss over that distance, well, the sources we looked at crunched the numbers.
What did they find?
They calculated the free space signal loss, basically how much the signal spreads out and weakens, as 447.4 dBm.
Okay, 447 dBm. Can you break that down for us? What does that number actually mean in terms of signal strength?
Right, so dB, decibels, it's the logarithmic scale. It's not linear. A loss of 10 dB means the signal is down to 10% of its original power. 20 dB is 1%. We're talking about 447 dBs of loss.
So the power just vanishes exponentially.
Pretty much. It gets smeared out incredibly quickly by just the vastness of space blending into the background noise of the universe.
So what was the estimated signal strength by the time it actually reaches M13 after 25,000 years?
It's calculated to be around minus 283.5 dBm, which is, I mean, it's an almost meaninglessly small number, effectively zero power relative to the noise.
Minus 283 dBm. Okay, but how weak is that really? Is there a way to compare it?
Yes, and this is the killer comparison, I think. Someone ran the calculation. What if there was an alien civilization in M13 and they had a radio telescope exactly like Arecibo was in 1974, the biggest, most sensitive dish we had?
Okay, using our best tech to listen for our own signal.
Could they detect it from 25,000 light years away? The answer was no, not even close.
What was the maximum distance then?
Our own Arecibo telescope could only have detected that specific signal for a maximum of about 253.9 light years away.
Wait, 253 light years?
Roughly, yeah.
Not 25,000?
Nope. The target was literally about 100 times further away than the maximum detection range of the instrument that sent it, assuming the receiver was identical.
That changes everything. Were they aware of this? Did they know it wouldn't be detectable at that distance?
Based purely on the physics known then and now, it seems unavoidable. The signal was destined to be drowned out by cosmic noise, random hydrogen emissions, the background microwave radiation, all that stuff.
So any aliens in M13 would need technology vastly superior to ours just to even notice that whisper.
Far, far superior. Just to confirm something artificial was sent, let alone decode the message itself. The universe is really good at erasing faint signals.
Okay, but let's play devil's advocate again. Let's imagine some super advanced civilization does somehow filter out this faint 3-minute blip. Now they have to figure out what it means, right?
And that's the second massive hurdle. The message itself is deeply, deeply human-centric. It's a puzzle based on our way of thinking.
How so? It starts with the number of bits, 1,679.
Right. Step 1 for the aliens. Realize this number isn't random. Step 2, figure out it's the product of two prime numbers, 23 and 73.
That's what you called the prime number trap earlier.
Exactly. It assumes first that aliens share our fascination with prime numbers as some kind of universal mathematical constant for communication. Big assumption.
Okay, what else?
Second, even if they get the primes, they have to assume these numbers represent the dimensions of a 2D grid. Why a grid? Why 2D?
And third, they have to guess the orientation correctly. It has to be arranged as 23 columns by 73 rows.
If they try it the other way, 73 columns by 23 rows.
It's just junk, a meaningless pattern of dots.
Right. It's like giving someone a complex jigsaw puzzle with no picture on the box, and only one of two possible shapes will make an image. And that image itself is based on our visual senses.
So the whole thing is biased towards sight, grids, our base 10 numbering system depicted in binary.
It's a monument to our own cognitive biases, as one source put it. What if their primary sense is smell or sound? What if they think in probabilities, not pictures? The message might be completely opaque.
Oh, okay, so we have a signal probably too weak to detect and a message maybe too biased to decode. This leads us back to Occam's razor, doesn't it? What's the simplest explanation for why they sent it?
It really seems to be the less dramatic one. The timing is key. The broadcast happened right after a major multi-million-dollar upgrade to the Arecibo radar transmitter.
Ah, so it was like a demonstration, a capability test.
Exactly. Donald Campbell, one of the scientists involved, said it plainly. It was strictly a symbolic event to show that we could do it.
Celebrating the new hardware.
Cornell University, which ran Arecibo, even confirmed the real purpose was basically PR, to call attention to the tremendous power of the upgraded radar.
So less hello universe, more look what our new toy can do.
Pretty much. Even Frank Drake, who actually designed the message content and was a huge figure in SETI, reports say even he thought active broadcasting MET was, at best, a stunt and generally a waste of time.
Wow. So the consensus from the people involved seems to be symbolic gesture, technical demo, maybe a bit of a stunt, not a serious attempt to phone ET, and certainly not intended as a high-stakes gamble. Okay, that really reframes the Arecibo message itself. Weak, symbolic, maybe undetectable. But what about the counter-argument, the barn door idea?
Ah, yes, the argument that says, well, even if Arecibo was quiet, we've been leaking radio and TV signals for a century. The cat's already out of the bag.
Right. That Earth is surrounded by this expanding bubble of signals now maybe 200 light years across. Surely that has given us away.
That idea of Earth as this super loud, obvious beacon, it's one of the most persistent myths, largely thanks to science fiction, I think. The physics just doesn't back it up for most leakage.
Why not? What's wrong with the radio bubble idea?
Well, think about old TV broadcasts, or FM radio, or even modern mobile phone signals. Most of that stuff is omnidirectional. It spreads out in all directions. And it's relatively low power compared to a focused beam like Arecibo's transmitter, even if the message itself was weak at the destination.
So because it spreads out, it weakens really, really fast.
Incredibly fast. The energy gets diluted over a sphere that grows with the square of the distance. It fades into the background noise of the galaxy almost immediately.
So no chance of aliens 100 light years away catching clear reruns of, I don't know, I Love Lucy.
Highly, highly unlikely. Way below the noise floor. There was an astronomer, Charles Stewart Boyer, who looked into this. He basically said that even our own Arecibo telescope couldn't detect the general radio noise from a civilization like ours at interstellar distances.
We can't even detect our own leakage signature from afar.
Pretty much. We're just not that loud in that disorganized, leaky way.
And you mentioned a more recent study, too, from 2023.
Yes, from researchers at the University of Mauritius and the SETI Institute. They simulated the leakage, specifically from modern mobile phone towers. You know, the kind of signals we produce constantly now.
What did they find? Are our mobile networks broadcasting our existence?
Their conclusion was pretty clear. Unless an alien civilization is way more advanced than us, technologically, they'd struggled to detect the current levels of mobile tower leakage from Earth. It's just too faint against the cosmic static.
Okay, so the leaky bubble idea seems weak, too. But the sources you looked at did say Earth emits some kind of powerful roar, right? Just not what we usually think.
Exactly. This is crucial. There are powerful signals coming from Earth that are far more detectable than Arecibo or TV reruns. A 2013 paper in the journal Space Policy really highlighted this.
What did that paper compare?
It directly compared intentional MADI broadcasts, like Arecibo, with our other, more continuous emissions. And the conclusion kind of flips the whole debate on its head. It found that MIDI signals, like Arecibo, are transient, remember, just 3 minutes, and actually several orders of magnitude less powerful than our strongest, most persistent signals.
Less powerful. Okay, so what are Earth's loudest, most detectable signals then?
The paper specifically identifies astronomical and military radars.
Radars, like things we use for tracking planes or weather, or bigger things.
Much bigger things, often. Think about the global military infrastructure. Systems designed for ballistic missile early warning, like the huge 𝐃𝐈𝐕𝐄 phased array radars, or radars used for tracking satellites and space debris deep space surveillance.
And why are they so much louder or more detectable?
2 reasons, mainly. 1, they're often incredibly high-powered, designed to get a reflection off a small object very far away. 2, they're often continuous or transmitting for much, much longer periods than a 3-minute message. And sometimes they're highly focused beams.
So things we built for watching our own skies for defense or for tracking asteroids, these are inadvertently shouting, "We are here!" much more loudly and persistently than Arecibo ever did.
That's what the physics strongly suggests. These powerful radar beams are designed to punch through our atmosphere and detect things potentially thousands of kilometers away. The energy involved, especially when transmitted continuously, makes them stand out against the background noise far more effectively than Arecibo's brief whisper or diffuse TV leakage.
It's kind of ironic, isn't it? The whole public fear and debate focuses on this one symbolic philosophical message from 1974.
Which turns out to be a bit of a straw man, physically speaking.
While ignoring the constant high-energy roar from our everyday military and planetary radar systems that have been operating for decades.
Right. The perceived danger, the hubris, has been attached to the gesture, not necessarily to our most detectable technological activities. So the physics seems pretty clear. Arecibo wasn't the cosmic shout people imagine, and our radar's probably louder anyway. But that still leaves the why. Why send it at all, and why does the idea of it being a gamble still fascinate us so much?
Yeah, we need to look at the time it was sent, 1974. You can't really understand Arecibo without thinking about the early 70s, can you?
Definitely not. It didn't happen in a vacuum. The Apollo moon landings were just over. There was still this huge wave of space race optimism, but maybe also a question of what next, a desire for peaceful, maybe more profound space engagement.
And Arecibo wasn't the first attempt at a message, was it? It followed something more physical.
Exactly. It's directly linked to the Pioneer plaques. Little gold anodized aluminum plates put on the Pioneer 10 and 11 spacecraft.
Launched in 72 and 73, just before Arecibo.
Right. But those plaques were famously a collaboration between Carl Sagan and Frank Drake.
The same Frank Drake who designed the Arecibo message content.
The very same. And the plaques had similar ideas. Diagrams of hydrogen, our solar system map, those drawings of a man and a woman. They were literally messages in a bottle tossed into the cosmic ocean.
So Arecibo was just the next logical step, using radio instead of a physical plaque.
It seems like it. Radio was seen as the fastest and cheapest method to send a similar kind of optimistic outreach message. It wasn't necessarily hubris, maybe just the technological evolution of that post-Apollo desire to say hello.
Which connects to this ongoing tension we see in the whole field, right? The split between SETI just listening and METI actively broadcasting.
Oh, completely. That debate is almost like a perfect mirror for a really deep human contradiction, I think.
How do you mean?
Well, on one hand, you have METI, the drive to broadcast, which comes from this deep, almost desperate need to know if we're alone, a fear of cosmic solitude. That loneliness makes us want to shout.
Okay, the drive to connect, what's the other side?
That's SETI, the listening-only approach. It stems from the opposite fear, the ancient primal fear of the unknown. What if what's out there is dangerous? That fear tells us to stay hidden, just listen cautiously.
Like the scientists Brin or Hawking were arguing for.
Exactly. So Arecibo and the whole debate around it kind of sits right at that intersection, humanity caught between this profound existential loneliness and this equally profound evolutionary paranoia about the dark.
That makes sense psychologically. But it leads to another question, kind of a cynical one maybe, Cui Bono. Who actually benefits from keeping this dangerous gamble narrative alive, especially if the physics says the original message was a non-event?
Well, there are definite benefits, maybe not intended, but real. Think about it from a storytelling perspective.
Okay.
The actual truth, scientists celebrated a telescope upgrade with a brief, symbolic, undetectable radio message, is frankly kind of boring, isn't it?
Yeah, not exactly front-page news or blockbuster movie material.
But the other narrative, humanity recklessly broadcast its existence, potentially inviting aliens who might follow the dark forest logic and destroy us. That's a story.
High stakes, drama, paranoia, cosmic clickbait.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It generates way more public interest, media attention, debate than a dry discussion about signal attenuation.
And does that public attention translate into benefits for the scientific field itself, particularly for SETI and MIDI researchers?
It certainly can. For decades, SETI research faced what insiders openly called the giggle factor. It was often seen as fringe, a bit weird, and struggled constantly for funding. It was precarious.
Not taken seriously enough by the mainstream scientific or funding bodies.
Right. But if you reframe the debate around MEDI not just as scientific curiosity, but as an existential risk, something could potentially on par with nuclear war or climate change.
Suddenly it's not a fringe hobby anymore, it's a major policy issue.
Exactly. It elevates the entire field. It moves SETI from the margins into a vigorous policy debate that demands serious attention from academics, ethicists, even governments.
And that kind of attention, that perceived seriousness, probably helps unlock doors for funding, doesn't it?
You'd imagine so. Private donors, foundations, they might be more interested in funding research tackling potential existential risks than just, listening for random beeps. The controversy itself, the dangerous gamble narrative, ironically might help sustain the field.
So the perception of Arecibo's hubris, even if scientifically shaky for the original message, creates a narrative that ultimately benefits the institutions involved in the search.
Interesting. So we've kind of established Arecibo was symbolic, weak, probably lost. The physics case seems pretty solid. But the story just refuses to end there, does it? Because something happened 27 years later that reignited everything.
Oh yeah, the Chilbolton crop circle. Well, crop rectangle, really. August 2001 in England, right beside a big radio telescope facility.
And it wasn't just any pattern. It looked like a direct reply to Arecibo.
Uncannily like it. It appeared to be an intentional point-by-point response to the specific structure and content of the 1974 message.
How closely did it mimic the original structure? That must have been the first thing people noticed.
It used the exact same 73 rows by 23 columns grid, the same 1,679 total elements. Whoever made it knew the Arecibo message format intimately.
Okay, same structure, but the content was different, right?
No.
That's what made it seem like a reply from somewhere else. Right. Key changes. Where Arecibo listed carbon as central to life, the reply seemed to highlight silicon.
Suggesting silicon-based life, big sci-fi trope.
Exactly. The DNA double helix diagram was altered, maybe suggesting a different structure or more strands. The little stick figure of a human was replaced.
With what?
With the classic gray alien figure, small body, big head, big eyes, straight out of popular culture.
And the Arecibo telescope diagram at the bottom?
That was replaced, too, with a much more complex image. Some interpreted it as a different kind of transmitter, maybe space-based, way more advanced than Arecibo. It really looked like someone saying, message received, here's our info.
So what did the scientific community make of it? Was there any serious thought it could be real?
Honestly, no. The consensus was very quickly and unanimously that it was a hoax. A very clever, intricate hoax, but a hoax nonetheless.
What was the evidence for it being man-made?
Well, SETI researchers and local investigators found evidence linking it to known crop circle artists who had been active in that same area, making increasingly complex designs over the previous couple of years. The techniques were terrestrial.
But wasn't there something in the message itself that gave it away as human? You mentioned the alien figure.
Yes. That was maybe the biggest tell. The gray alien depicted wasn't just generic. It was a near-perfect match for the archetype that permeates our books, movies, TV shows.
An image we created.
An image whose lineage you can trace back pretty clearly to alleged alien abduction accounts, particularly those described under hypnosis, starting way back in the 1960s. It wasn't alien biology. It was a reflection of human folklore and science fiction.
So the hoax and the massive public excitement and speculation it caused really tells us more about us than about aliens.
Absolutely. It's a perfect example of a cognitive bias called patternicity.
Patternicity, what's that?
It's our brain's tendency, maybe even eagerness, to find meaningful patterns in noise, to connect dots, sometimes even when the connections aren't really there. We're pattern-seeking animals.
So we wanted a reply to Arecibo so badly
that when this complex, human-made pattern appeared, looking like a reply, many people immediately jumped to that conclusion, forcing the data to fit the desired narrative. The whole episode powerfully demonstrates our sense of cosmic solitude, how much we crave contact. If the universe doesn't reply, maybe we'll subconsciously create the reply ourselves.
Which leads to this final irony, doesn't it?
It really does. The original 1974 Arecibo message was this technical exercise aimed at aliens, but almost certainly doomed to fail due to the physics of signal decay.
Utterly lost in space.
But the 2001 Chilbolton hoax, created by humans, pretending to be aliens, but ultimately communicating to other humans, that was actually a far more successful and profound act of communication.
It tells us nothing about ET.
But volumes about human ingenuity, our pop culture obsessions, our deep psychological need for connection, and our tendency to see patterns. The hoax, in a weird way, achieved more meaningful communication than the original message ever could. #tag outro.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. Where has this deep dive taken us? We started with that really compelling, kind of frightening dark forest idea.
Yeah, the argument that Arecibo was cosmic hubris, potentially suicidal.
But then we brought in the physics, the hard numbers, and they seem to paint a very different picture.
A 3-minute signal, very weak at the destination, almost certainly undetectable by anything like our own technology. More symbolic gesture than serious broadcast. A way to celebrate a telescope upgrade, really.
And we found that the fear, the fascination, the whole debate that still swirls around Arecibo, even the 2001 hoax, it tells us so much more about ourselves, doesn't it?
About human psychology, our anxieties, our need for funding for science, our cognitive biases, our deep-seated hope not to be alone. The message ends up being a mirror reflecting us, not a window revealing aliens.
So that 1,679-bit postcard, it's out there now, 50 years into its 25,000-year journey through the darkness.
Silent, almost certainly unnoticed by anyone it was intended for. A message more about humanity's needs and fears in 1974 than about reaching M13.
So having heard the arguments, the physics, the psychology, we have to put that question back to you, the listener. Now that you're informed on the facts and the fiction, does this faint 3-minute message represent humanity's greatest gesture of hope, reaching for connection across the void?
Or is it ultimately a profound symbol of our enduring hubris, our tendency to overestimate our voice and perhaps underestimate the silence?